Hey everyone, welcome to Nick Drinks. I'm your host, Nick Britsky. Today we have a special guest. We have Jamie Hunt, who is the CEO and founder of Fast Penny Spirits. And we're going to be talking about a couple of her products which just launched in Michigan, but are available around the US.
Nick Drinks.
Jamie, how you doing?
Hello. Thanks for having me.
First off, it looks very sunny. I feel like Seattle's normally rainy. Tell me about what's happening right now.
It's our first sunny day in years. No, it's been a while. We're all like hoping for summer here.
So this is a brand new launch to Michigan. Talk a little bit about Fast Penny Spirits and this amazing box that you guys sent me with some products.
Well, first off, I have a Sicilian heritage and grew up with family that made their own liqueurs and wines for, friends and family consumption. So I'm very used to kind of tinkering in the kitchen with various things, and I love food, wine, cocktails. And I fell in love with Amaro in my 20s and would go to different parts of Italy and pick up special bottles from the different regions. I don't know if folks that are listening to this know what Amaro is, but it just means bitter in Italian, and it's a bittersweet herbal liqueur. And so it also often has like a regional terroir. So people use different foraged and gardened and farmed ingredients in their Amari. And then they combine it with other high quality ingredients from around the world. And that's just typically how it's been done for hundreds of years.
So tell me the difference between Amaro and Amari.
So Amaro is singular, Amari is more than one.
So there are so many Amari that we have access to in Michigan. We're fairly lucky, but there's a lot more that never make it here. And the fact that people are starting to dive into terroir and get some of those great flavors that maybe we typically don't get. Talk about, is this something you're bringing over from Italy, or is this something you're making here?
Something I'm making myself. So I fell in love with the Italian style Amari. And when I decided that I wanted to kind of move career directions drastically, I was a digital executive. My last place, I was a partner at Ernst & Young. And I wanted to do something I was passionate about, and I wanted to build a business that I could give back with. And so when my husband and I were hanging out at a local bar here that's pretty well known called Rob Roy, we were having an Amaro after dinner, and started asking the bartender about American made Amari because we wanted to support some more localish Amaro. And we had a couple tastes of it, and they were fine. They weren't like an Italian style. They weren't as complex as what I was used to, but they were good, solid Amari. And so I thought, it just kind of put a bug in my head, and I thought, let me look into this. And I started reading everything I could about Amaro and trying to get my hands on recipes, and there really isn't. I mean, Amaro is secretive. I got my hands on Brad Parsons' Amaro book and made all his Amaro concoctions. Yep. Played around with stuff that was growing in the garden, and then decided, yeah, I could do this. And so I started the business in August of 2017, and then worked on the recipes for about 2.5 years.
So historically, is this something that families would make kind of small batches for parties and events, or was there like a town central kind of distillery that would be making this for the area?
Well, it started off in more like monasteries. Monasteries were making it. It was considered medicine. Funny story is, in Prohibition, Fernet did really well. Because it was labeled a medicine. So people could pick up their medicine from the pharmacy and drink that. I think that's the era when the Hanky Panky cocktail was born. And so it's kind of fun in that way. So it went from the monasteries more to the home and to some commercial makers. Probably, the history is always a little bit weird. You read one thing and then you read another thing that contradicts it, but probably in the 1800s is when more of that happened. And I'm sure as peoples of Italy have always done. They were probably making their own during this other time as well.
So how unique is it for someone in the US to be making an Amaro?
I would have said like 5-10 years ago, fairly unique, but it is growing and there's more and more manufacturers, more and more distilleries making Amaro. Less that are solely focused on Amaro. It's more, they might make a gin or a whiskey and then they make an Amaro. But there are at least a handful, if not a dozen or so of us that are solely focused on like Italian liqueurs and Amaro.
And how long have you been doing this?
So I started in 2017 and then we launched the two products in July of 2020.
So thank you so much for sending this lovely package right here, which you basically overnighted to us. It looks like we have 2 flavors. Is that correct?
So the one on the left, the Amaricano Bianca, the lighter one, is more of an aperitivo style. It is a little more delicate and floral. It's candied lemon notes, as well as kind of a tart green finish. So it's a light bittered Amaro. And then if you look at the right, we have the Amaricano, which is more of a digestivo style. It has notes of Mexican chocolate, black truffle, just an earthy bitterness. I do want to mention that in both of them, they have locally foraged black truffles in them.
What? Truffles?
We have a whole series going on in our newsletter around our truffle dogs. So we're highlighting our awesome dogs that get us all of our truffles for our product. So that's pretty fun. I also own a truffle dog. His name is Fiore. But yeah, so they're fun to drink on their own. They're also, and you can sip them neat or on the rocks. You can add fresh citrus peel. You can add fresh herbs. And whenever you do those, the one thing I love about Amaro is you can kind of make it your own, especially if it's more complex, because whatever you put in it will pull out different parts of the botanical build. And so it's pretty fun. Like in the summertime, when I'm drinking the darker one after dinner, I usually put it on a rock and then I put a lemon peel in it and it just lightens and freshens it up. In the winter time, I'll drink it neat and I might put an orange peel in it. Yeah, so I just kind of change things up, and the Bianca goes nice with all those peels. It also goes nice with the grapefruit peel, which is super lovely. But the Amaricano Bianca also cocktails well with spirits that are a little bit lighter, like gin and vodka, light rums, mezcal, tequila. They're really nice. And then we have like a white Negroni that's always on our tasting deck that does super well. We spritz with both, which is fun. And then like our darker one goes really well with the darker spirits. So Black Manhattan is the biggest, the most popular cocktail that gets sold with our Amaro, the darker one, the Amaricano. But it goes well with, darker rums and rye and cognacs and yeah.
So if we're looking at kind of the Amaro world, there's a couple big categories. And one of them I kind of look at the Campari, Cappelletti, Aperol side of the world. Would you say the Bianca is kind of more like that?
You know what? I call it an aperitivo just because it's light and lovely for before dinner. Okay. But it has a higher alcohol content. Those others have lower. Okay. It also has a lot lower sugar, which is nice.
And then kind of the other darker side, more like the Montenegro. Is that what you'd say this guy is?
Like where Montenegro, Nonino, Averna, it would probably be categorized the same.
All right, let's sample this. This is the Bianca first. Right off the back, you get a lovely, lovely color on that. I mean, incredible nose. Just popping open that cork has that beautiful noise right off the bat. And it's springy, it's fresh. You get a lot of florals on that, a little bit of fruit notes, some citrus, some berries. I mean, that color is great.
All of it's natural, so it's all organic and well crafted. and there's over 45 botanicals in there.
Oh, it's so good. Really complex, lots and lots of layers. Not super bitter, nice and balanced with the sweet components, great florals and fruits, but there's a complexity to it, like a forest floor, like a funkiness. Is that what the truffle is actually bringing to the table?
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that's what they're tasting, but when we tried to take it out earlier on because it's just expensive.
All right, so moving over to the dark here, this you can kind of see opaque wise, it is very, very dark. The Bianca is almost see-through with that great saffron hue, but this guy is dark, dark, dark. Very, very interesting.
We use a really fine filtration system. It goes through 2-micron filters. Which is red blood cells are roughly around 5 to 7. So it's a really fine filtration. So we try to get a lot of that murkiness out of our product and have more of a lush feel on the palate. So
is all the filtration mechanical?
Yeah, we use a lenticular filter, so sort of mechanical. We use a diaphragm pump to pump from the tank through the filter and into another tank.
But it's not like a fining agent, like a chemical process like that?
No, there are no additives or preservatives. There's no fining agents. It's just all natural products.
All right, let's try the Amaro. So again, very dark, very rich. A little bit of viscosity on that. Big, big flavor. Oh, wide. Coats the tongue, a little bit of sweetness, very thick, very rich. That cocoaness, that chocolatiness, that forest floor. This is a very, very thick, very, very intense Amaro. Lots of flavor on it. This might be a top pick for me. This is pretty yummy. Tell me what's in this.
So what you taste in there is the black truffle, the organic cocoa nibs. You'll taste the Rainier cherries that are in there. There's cascara, if you're familiar with that, which is the fruit of the coffee bean. I think those are some of the key flavors. A little bit of the citrus, like we have bitter orange peel in there that I think comes through. And there's some green herbs that are in there, the dried green herbs that you might be tasting.
So you created all these recipes like just from your palate. You were doing a little bit of research and these are the recipes you came up with?
Yeah, so the way I did it is I picked over 100 botanicals that I thought would go really well in an Amaro. And then I tinctured each one of them separately. And then I used a process of looking at a different flavor wheel. So I used a gin and a wine wheel and started looking at what I was putting together. So what I did is I took a micro pipette and I took these tinctures and I did micro trials. So just building, I knew the 5 that were probably going to be a base, and then I just kept adding until I got to over 45. Yeah.
So how many different iterations do you think was like from 0 to this?
Oh, hundreds.
Wow. Okay.
Because I was doing the micro trials. So what I'd do is I'd write it all down in a spreadsheet, and I would go back to certain combinations and build on those. I would tree off, like I branch off and do some other combinations. And, there's a lot of things where, I tend to like a little licoricey taste, anise taste from my, background. And so sometimes I would put just one too many of those types of botanicals. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is unbalanced now. So I really wanted to create a balanced Amaro. And I also wanted it to be approachable. So not overly bitter, but bitter enough for an Amaro aficionado to really love it too. But for someone that's either doesn't like Amaro or thinks they don't like Amaro or is new to Amaro to be able to appreciate as well.
Jamie, thank you so much for your time. Anything else you want to add to this conversation?
No, not right now. I mean, we're doing some R&D and on some ready to drinks, and that's a whole nother ball of wax that are Amaro based. So, but that's a big process. So we won't release them until we think that they're really, really good.
great.
And we're working with a food scientist and actually a food lab to make sure they're shelf stable and tasty.
That's great. How can people find out more about this product?
You can definitely go to our website. We post all the time on our Instagram, which is just at Fast Penny Spirits. And we also have another Instagram that focuses more on the national scene with at Amaro, Amaricano. You'll tend to get some tasting deck stuff in our at Fast Penny Spirits. So if you're still interested in that, definitely do that. We also have a newsletter that you can sign up for on our website. And we post a lot of different information. Like right now, we're doing an education series on entertaining, easy entertaining with Amaro, building out beautiful tablescapes, things like that. So it's pretty fun. And having a spritz party.
Jamie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Nick.
If you'd like to find out more about Nick Drinks, you can find us at nickdrinks.com or on Instagram and Facebook at nickdrinks.com spelled out. Until next time, everyone, cheers.